Welcome, my friend. Today, you're about to hear one of the most powerful and emotional stories ever told in human history. The true story of Jesus Christ. Whether you're religious or not, whether you believe in God or you're still searching, this story is about more than faith. It's about love, sacrifice, truth, courage, pain, hope, forgiveness, and how one man changed the entire world. Not through money or armies, but through his heart. He had no wealth. He had no position. He had no political power. He had no fancy clothes, no house, no army. But still, he became the most influential person in all of human history. Today, in this biography, you will discover: who was Jesus really? What kind of child was he? What kind of love did he show to even strangers? Why did he attract so many enemies and followers? What were the final hours of his life really like? And what was the real reason the world never forgot his name? Every part of this story is written in easy English, so it will also help you improve your English speaking, listening, and vocabulary. You will feel like you're watching a powerful movie and learning English at the same time. So listen till the end, and I promise, this story will touch your heart and change your life forever. Let's begin. Part 1. The Boy Who Carried the Light. The story of Jesus does not begin on the day he was born. It begins much earlier. In a small town called Nazareth lived a young woman named Mary. She was probably around 14 to 16 years old. Very kind, humble, and full of faith. One day, something incredible happened. An angel appeared to her, not in a dream, but in reality, and said, "Mary, do not be afraid. You have been chosen. You will give birth to a son. His name will be Jesus. He will be called the Son of God." Mary was shocked. She was not married. She had no husband. But the angel said, "This child is not from any man. This child is from the Spirit of God." Mary said yes, not because she understood everything, but because she had faith. This moment changed history. Mary was engaged to a man named Joseph. When she told him about the pregnancy, he was confused and hurt. But instead of getting angry or shaming her, he chose to protect her. An angel appeared to him too, saying, "Don't be afraid to take Mary as your wife. The child she carries is from God." Joseph believed and became a guardian not just for Mary, but for the most important child in history. When Mary was almost ready to give birth, they had to travel to a town called Bethlehem. It was cold. It was night. Every hotel was full. They had nowhere to stay, no bed, no nurse, no doctor. Finally, someone offered a small place where animals were kept, a barn. And there, among the animals, hay and silence, Jesus was born. No crown, no gold, no celebration, just silence, stars, and a light that would soon shake the whole world. The night Jesus was born, a bright star appeared in the sky, one that had never been seen before. 3 wise men from far away saw the star and understood something powerful had happened. They followed it for days and nights, bringing gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh, meant for royalty. They found the baby, they bowed, they gave him gifts, because they knew, this is no ordinary child. This is the chosen one. Jesus grew up in Nazareth with his mother Mary and Joseph. They were not rich. In fact, they were quite poor. Joseph worked as a carpenter, building furniture, homes, and tools. And from a very young age, Jesus began to show something unusual. He never lied. He never fought. He always helped others, even when they didn't ask. And he would sit for hours, listening to the stories of the scriptures. At age 12, something amazing happened. His family visited the temple in Jerusalem, but when it was time to go home, Jesus was missing. Mary and Joseph searched for 3 days, panicking. And where did they find him? In the temple, sitting with teachers, priests, and scholars, asking questions and teaching them back. The teachers were amazed. "How can this child understand so much?" they asked. Jesus replied gently, "Did you not know? I must be in my Father's house." From age 12 to 30, not much is written about his life, but what we know is powerful. He stayed humble. He worked as a carpenter. He helped people quietly. He lived simply. He didn't chase money. He didn't fight for power. He waited because he knew his time was coming. At age 30, Jesus walked to a river where a man named John the Baptist was preaching and baptizing people, helping them turn away from their mistakes and start a new life. When Jesus came to him, John immediately felt something divine. "You should baptize me," John said. But Jesus insisted. As he was baptized, the skies opened, and a voice was heard. "This is my Son whom I love. I am pleased with him." From this moment on, the world would never be the same. Part 2. The Man Who Changed Everything. After being baptized, Jesus left the crowd and walked into the desert, alone. For 40 days and 40 nights, he ate nothing. He fasted, he prayed, he faced temptation after temptation, and defeated them all. He returned stronger, clearer, and fully awakened to his mission. The first miracle. Water into wine. Jesus was invited to a wedding in a small village called Cana. Everything was going well, until the worst thing happened in that culture. They ran out of wine. Mary, his mother, came to him quietly and said, "They have no more wine." Jesus replied gently, "My time has not yet come." But Mary looked at the servants and said, "Do whatever he tells you." There were 6 large stone jars, filled with only water. Jesus told the servants, "Take some out and give it to the master of the banquet." When the master tasted it, his eyes widened. The water had turned into wine. Not just any wine, but the best wine anyone had ever tasted. It was Jesus' first public miracle, and word began to spread like wildfire. One day, Jesus was walking by the Sea of Galilee. He saw 2 fishermen, Peter and his brother Andrew. They had been fishing all night and caught nothing. Jesus told them, "Throw your net on the other side." They did, and the net almost broke. It was full of fish. Peter fell to his knees. "Lord, I am not worthy." Jesus looked at him and said, "From now on, you will fish for people." And just like that, they left everything behind. Their boat, their business, their family, and followed him. He then called James, John, Matthew the tax collector, and others. 12 disciples. Ordinary men, imperfect men. But he trained them to carry a message the world had never heard before. Wherever Jesus went, people followed. Not because he was rich, not because he was powerful, but because he loved them. He healed a man who was blind since birth. He touched a man with leprosy, a disease that made others run away. He raised a 12-year-old girl from the dead. He fed 5,000 hungry people with just 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. He gave dignity to the poor. He protected women who were about to be stoned. He forgave sinners when the world only wanted to punish them. He looked into people's hearts and made them feel seen for the first time in their lives. Jesus didn't speak like the teachers of the time. He didn't use big words. He didn't make people feel small. He told stories, simple ones, parables, that even children could understand. He said things like, "Love your enemies. Forgive 70 times 7. Don't judge others. The greatest among you is the one who serves. If someone slaps your cheek, offer the other one. What does it profit a man if he gains the whole world but loses his soul?" These words hit people like lightning, because no one had ever spoken with such truth and tenderness together. Women followed him. Children loved him. The poor felt hope near him. The rich felt uncomfortable. He told people, "You don't need to be perfect to be loved by God. You don't need gold or fame or approval to live a holy life. You just need faith the size of a mustard seed." And slowly, thousands began to believe. But not everyone was happy. The growing enemies, the religious leaders, the priests and Pharisees, began to grow afraid. "This man is dangerous," they whispered. "He is breaking our traditions. He is calling God his Father. He is forgiving sins. Who does he think he is?" They didn't care about miracles. They didn't care about truth. They cared about power. And Jesus was shaking it. But Jesus never argued. He didn't insult them. He spoke directly, but lovingly. Still, the plot to destroy him had already begun. One night, after feeding 5,000 people, Jesus went up a mountain to pray alone. His disciples were in a boat, crossing the sea. Suddenly, a storm hit. Waves rose high. Wind crashed against them. They were afraid. But in the middle of the storm, they saw a man walking on the water. It was Jesus. Peter cried out, "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you." Jesus said, "Come." Peter stepped out of the boat, and for a few seconds, he also walked on water. But when fear took over, he began to sink. Jesus grabbed his hand and said, "Why did you doubt?" This moment wasn't just about miracles. It was about faith. In the middle of the storm, even though Jesus was powerful, he never acted like a king. He was kind, gentle, and full of emotion. When his friend Lazarus died, Jesus didn't smile and say, "It's okay." He wept. Even though he was about to raise Lazarus from the dead, he still cried because he felt the pain of those around him. He taught us that strength is not in hiding emotion, but in feeling deeply and loving deeply. As his popularity grew, so did the danger. The leaders met in secret. "We must stop him," they said. "This man is turning the world upside down." They didn't know. That was exactly what he came to do. Part 3. The Betrayal and the Cross. The final week begins. It was the time of Passover in Jerusalem, one of the holiest festivals. The streets were full. Jews from all over the land had come to pray, to sacrifice, and to celebrate. And into this crowd came Jesus, but not like a king on a horse. He came riding a small donkey. The people saw him and shouted with joy, "Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." They laid palm branches and cloaks on the road for him. It was the way kings were welcomed, but Jesus knew this joy would not last. He knew that these same voices would soon cry, "Crucify him." The next day, Jesus entered the temple, the holiest place in Jerusalem. But what he saw broke his heart. People were using religion to make money. There were traders, money changers, sellers of animals, turning God's house into a market. Jesus didn't stay silent. He flipped the tables. He chased them out. He shouted, "My Father's house shall be a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves." This moment shocked the priests. This man, with no army, was shaking the entire system. And now, they decided, this man must die. The Last Supper, a meal of love and sorrow. On the night before his death, Jesus gathered his 12 disciples for one final meal. They ate bread, they drank wine, but it was not an ordinary meal. It was full of sadness. He looked around the table and said, "One of you will betray me tonight." The room fell silent. Each man looked around, confused, afraid. "Surely not me, Lord." But Jesus already knew. Then he took the bread and broke it. "This is my body, broken for you." He took the wine and poured it. "This is my blood, shed for the forgiveness of sins." And then he did something shocking. He got down on his knees and washed their feet. The teacher, the Lord, washing the dirty feet of his students, even the feet of the one who would betray him. Because true love is not proud. It kneels, it serves. One of the 12 disciples was named Judas Iscariot. He had followed Jesus for 3 years. He had seen the miracles. But something in his heart changed. He went to the priests and asked, "What will you give me if I hand him over to you?" They gave him 30 pieces of silver. That night, after the Last Supper, Jesus and the disciples went to the Garden of Gethsemane to pray. Jesus was in deep sorrow. He knew what was coming. He prayed alone. "Father, if it is possible, take this cup from me, but not my will, your will be done." As he prayed, Judas arrived, with guards, with swords, with torches, and he walked up to Jesus and kissed him. It was the sign, the betrayal. "Judas," Jesus said, "do you betray the Son of Man with a kiss?" The guards arrested Jesus. The disciples ran away, and the world turned dark. Jesus was taken to the priests, then to the high council, then to Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor. They asked him questions. They accused him of everything: lying, blasphemy, rebellion, and through it all, Jesus stayed silent. He didn't defend himself. He didn't fight back. He stood tall, calm, peaceful. Pilate said, "I find no fault in this man." But the crowd, pushed by the priests, began to shout, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Pilate tried to set him free. He gave the people a choice. "Shall I release Jesus or a criminal named Barabbas?" And they shouted, "Barabbas." "Then what should I do with Jesus?" "Crucify him." Pilate, afraid of the people, washed his hands and said, "I am innocent of this man's blood." And Jesus was handed over to be killed. The soldiers laughed at him. They blindfolded him and punched him. "Prophesy, Jesus, who hit you?" They made a crown of thorns, sharp, painful, and forced it onto his head. Blood ran down his face. They put a purple robe on him, pretending he was a king. They mocked, "Hail, King of the Jews!" But Jesus said nothing. No anger, no hate, only love. They made him carry a heavy wooden cross up a hill called Golgotha, the place of the skull. He was weak, beaten, bleeding. But he walked. People spat at him, laughed at him, even those he had once healed. At the top of the hill, they nailed his hands and feet to the cross. Nails, not ropes, nails. And they raised the cross for the world to see. For 6 hours he hung there, in pain, in heat, in shame. And what did he say? "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Even in his worst suffering, he forgave. He looked at his mother and made sure she would be cared for. He looked at a criminal beside him and promised him paradise. And finally, he cried, "It is finished." And he gave up his spirit. At that moment, the sky turned black. The earth shook. The temple curtain, which separated people from God, was torn from top to bottom. And a Roman soldier who saw it all whispered, "Surely, this man was the Son of God." They buried him in a tomb, A large stone was rolled in front. Guards were placed there, and the world thought it was over. But it wasn't. They killed his body. They silenced his voice. They sealed his grave. But they didn't know. You can't bury the truth. You can't kill love. You can't stop light. Because on the third day, something happened that changed everything. Part 4. He is risen. The light that never died. After Jesus died, his body was placed in a tomb. A large stone sealed the entrance. Roman guards stood outside to make sure no one could take the body. 3 days passed. On the morning of the third day, Mary Magdalene and other women came to the tomb with spices. They wanted to honor his body. But when they arrived, they stopped. The stone was rolled away. The guards were gone. And inside the tomb, there was no body, just empty linen cloth and silence. Mary ran. She told the disciples. Peter and John came running, and they found the same thing. The tomb was empty. As the women stood outside crying, 2 men in shining clothes appeared beside them. Angels. And they said, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here. He has risen, just as he said." These words changed history. No one had expected this, not even his closest followers. But it was true. Jesus had defeated death. 2 disciples were walking on the road to a village called Emmaus, talking about everything that had happened. A man began walking beside them. He asked, "What are you talking about?" They replied, "About Jesus. We had hoped he was the one, but now he's gone." The man smiled. He began explaining the scriptures, how everything had been predicted. They didn't realize who he was. But when they sat down to eat, he broke the bread. And suddenly, their eyes were opened. It's him. It's Jesus. And then, he vanished. They ran back, full of joy. "He is alive. We saw him." Over the next 40 days, Jesus appeared again and again to his followers. He walked through locked doors. He ate food to prove he was real. He showed his hands, with holes still there. He appeared to Thomas, who had doubted. Thomas had said earlier, "Unless I see the wounds, I won't believe." Jesus appeared and said, "Touch my hands. Place your finger in my side. Stop doubting and believe." Thomas fell to his knees and cried, "My Lord and my God." Jesus smiled and said something for all future believers. "You have seen and believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe." That means you and me. One day, Jesus gathered his disciples on a mountain. He looked at the men who once feared everything, and he gave them one final mission. Go into all the world. Teach every nation. Baptize them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Teach them to obey all I have commanded you. And remember, I am with you always, even to the end of the world. And then, something amazing happened. Jesus raised his hands. He blessed them. And slowly, he began to rise, higher and higher, otak, into the clouds. The disciples stood in awe, eyes full of wonder and tears. 2 angels appeared again and said, "Why do you stand looking into the sky? This same Jesus who was taken from you into heaven will come back in the same way you saw him go." Hope was born, faith was ignited, and the world would never be the same. After Jesus returned to heaven, the disciples didn't go back to hiding. They went out into the world, bold, fearless, full of love. They were beaten, arrested, hated, hunted, but they never stopped. Peter preached in the streets. John spoke with wisdom. Paul, once a hater of Jesus, became one of his strongest messengers. They all risked their lives because they had seen him, because they had felt his love. because they believed that the story must continue. Jesus was not just a man. He was not just a teacher. He was not just a miracle worker. He was the light of the world. He was the Son of God. And he came not to build a religion, but to show a path of love, forgiveness, peace, and eternal life. He healed the sick, to show compassion. He forgave the sinners, to show grace. He died on the cross, to show sacrifice. He rose from the dead, to show victory. And everything he did was for you. No matter who you are, no matter what you've done, no matter where you've been, his message is still alive. Come to me, all who are tired and heavy burdened, and I will give you rest. 2,000 years have passed. Empires have fallen, kings have died, languages have changed. But one name still remains: Jesus. Why? Because he didn't just change the world. He changed hearts. He didn't just teach lessons. He showed a new way to live. He didn't just rise from a grave. He gave hope to the hopeless. What you learned in this story. Summary. How Jesus was born with no wealth, but full of purpose. How he lived simply, yet loved powerfully. How he healed, forgave, and uplifted the forgotten. How he was betrayed, crucified, and buried. How he rose again and left behind a message of eternal love. And how his story can inspire you to live with more love, more courage, and more purpose. If you listen to this whole biography, you didn't just hear a powerful story. You also practiced English. You learned new vocabulary, sentence structures, pronunciation, and emotional tone. You trained your brain to think clearly in English, and your heart to feel deeply in any language. So keep listening, keep reading, keep practicing. Because your English journey is also a story of transformation. Say this with me. Jesus loved people, even when they hated him. Jesus forgave, even when they betrayed him. Jesus rose, even when they tried to bury him. And I will also rise. I will not give up. I will not stay silent. I will walk in love, in purpose, and in truth. If this story touched your heart, if it helped your English, if it made you think deeper about life, then don't keep it to yourself. Like, comment, and share this story with someone you love. Because this story was never meant to stay inside. It was meant to spread light. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories that will change your heart and improve your English at the same time. Thank you for listening. This is not the end. This is the beginning.